The Beavertown Building and Lumber Supply float is now coming into view, and George Saylor himself is riding the horse there. He is representing George Washington, and he really does look good. He's got the cape, he's got the hat, he's got the powdered wig, he's got all of the regalia necessary to look like George Washington, and then following that is Rusty Kaufman's sound truck. So Rusty is right up here now, and we can hear it's the antenna systems, the public address system. Rusty has also been very generous in supporting our bicentennial, and he has been instrumental in having many of the technical things which we're bringing to you made possible. Now we see the Rotary International float, the Rotary Club float, beautiful yellow, it's yellow and blue. We see some lovely girls on the float, lovely indeed, and followed by a 1951 Kaiser Fraser. It's either a Kaiser or a Fraser. I'm not entirely sure what it is. And then following that, we have the Elwood Knepp, and that's the Elwood Knepp antique car. And then we have the Gross's Campground float, which is now, you see a group of people huddled around a fire, and it's just now coming out of view. And right behind that is the Fayette Fire Company fire truck. The Gross's Campground, located about 1.5 miles to the east of Beavertown along the back road, is a very popular resort, attracting an international group of campers. The organ you hear playing is from the Gross's Campground float. The Fayette Fire Company is from McAllisterville. Now we see the UCC Church float at Beavertown. God for All People, St. Paul's UCC Church. John Bailey and his beautiful black and white Jeep, mostly white with black trim, of course. Across there, the Holy Bible, a very, very lovely float. Followed right there by the Beavertown Block Company float. And just lovely material, Beavertown Block Company. You see a colonial gentleman and his wife in just absolutely stunning uniform. That is just a fabulous float, and I'm sure that will be one of the contenders for a first prize. That is an incredibly beautiful float. That took an enormous amount of work. Now we have a small break in the action, and while we do, we would like to announce the winners of the doorway prizes for the Beavertown Bicentennial Home Decoration Contest. The first prize winners were Mr. and Mrs. John Hassinger, and Doressa is our decoration co-chairperson, so it comes as no surprise that we picked a very good person, and she came in first in the doorway. Mr. and Mrs. Jack Kaufman placed second, and Mr. and Mrs. Jack H. Grimm placed third in the doorway prize, in the doorway decoration contest. Again, there were several honorable mentions. Too many people had lovely doorways not to be recognized. So Mr. and Mrs. Ray Moyer, Mr. and Mrs. Leon Bickhart, Mr. and Mrs. Ray Waggle, and Mr. and Mrs. Ronald Wagner received an honorable mention for their lovely doorways. Now we have the Swineford National Bank float, and the 1776-1976 Bicentennial Swineford National Bank. And we have the new $2 bill on there with a rather colorful picture in the middle. And going back to the roast of Rudy Coleman that we had in the fire hall earlier this year, back in June, Reno Thomas was roasting Rudy, and he indicated that when the new $2 bill came out, Rudy was overheard to say that he remembers when the $2 bill bought something. And I can't imagine what. But that is a tricky one. The Middleburg High School Band will be coming up next, and there you can see the Middleburg High School Band in the background, and we'll be hearing them play very, very shortly. In the meantime, we're going to announce the overall winners of the Beavertown Bicentennial Home Decoration Contest. The overall winners were Mr. and Mrs. Alton Camp. And in second place was Mrs. Iva Hook, who also has a very lovely home, and in third place, Mr. and Mrs. James Lash. All three of those homes are just outstanding, and we sincerely hope that the decorations are still up when this is played back, for the very first time at least, and that you'll, if you haven't seen them, walk around and see those lovely homes. Now, in honorable mention, we had Mr. and Mrs. Clyde Ritter, Mr. and Mrs. Harold Moyer, Mr. and Mrs. Paul Zeckman, Mr. and Mrs. George Aumiller, Mr. and Mrs. Claire Bowersox, Mr. and Mrs. Sam Herman, and Mr. and Mrs. George Hackenberg. And all of these homes were so lovely that they just could not be ignored. The judges said they never had such a difficult time in choosing winners and limiting the winners to first, second, and third. And as a result, we have 14 additional prizes for the honorable mentions in our lovely decorated Beavertown. Beavertown, of course, is the most beautifully decorated small town in all of America for our nation's bicentennial, and we've been recognized as such. Many of the truckers going through on their CB sets say, "Mercy, mercy, what a beautiful patriotic town." You know, Big 10-4, another one says. So we get our recognition from the people that pass through, and we really deserve that recognition. Our people do, for responding so patriotically to our nation's bicentennial. Now we're catching the Middleburg High School Band. Just listen to them for a few moments. Now coming into view right behind the Middleburg High School Band. Middleburg is a sister school in the Midwest School Unit along with West Snyder. Of course, West Snyder was the first statewide soccer champion. Middleburg was the second statewide soccer champion. Both of them are the same school district, an incredible feat for a small community of only 5,000 people representing the Midwest School District. There you saw the Port Trevorton Fire Company, many of their members waving. The Williamsport Hearse will be the next thing that will be coming along, and we don't see anything in our monitor at the present time, so we're going to move out on the balcony so we can kind of get some fresh air and also just kind of wave to some of the people out here. We just had a report from a cherry bomb, which is, of course, part of the old-time tradition of celebrating any nation's bicentennial. Yes, I don't know exactly what this Williamsport hearse is, but apparently it's been in other parades, and there seems to be some demand for it, so perhaps when it gets a little further down, we'll be able to... I beg your pardon?
Comedy team.
Oh, comedy team. Well, then that's why they are expected to perform admirably in our Beavertown parade today. By the way, the Williamsport hearse will be the 64th unit to pass through, so we're approximately a third of the way through our parade. You fellas have any idea how long this thing's been running? Well, we were just checking the tape to make certain that we don't run out of tape, but here comes the Williamsport hearse. See some mortician-type persons marching around right behind it, and they are well-dressed. I wish... Can you, ladies and gentlemen, look at those fabulous... Uh-oh. Policeman just shot a convict laying down here in the road. You can't catch that action, but... Uh-oh, now here we go. Uh-oh, there's the convict. And there are the group of morticians dressed up, getting out the coffin, placing the coffin over the convict, crowd reacting. There he goes into the coffin, and the pallbearers load him up and put him into the hearse. And there he goes.